All right, everybody, welcome to episode 31 of the Engineering Success Podcast. Shout out to anybody that's watching this live on YouTube. If you're watching this live on YouTube, that means that you're seeing that this is episode 31 and I haven't posted episode 30 yet. You might be a little bit confused by that. Episode 30 was already recorded. It'll come tomorrow or tonight. I've edited it and it'll come through and get posted. And then episode 31 will then get posted on Anchor the following week. So we're getting really kind of creative. We're trying to figure out how we want to go about ordering, how we record things, post things. So we're working on that. But in the meantime, you'll get to just enjoy some serendipitous fun. But we have a fun slate ahead of us. But before we get into that, a couple little shout outs. First of all, shout out to us. We're up over 600 followers on Twitter. We just eclipsed the 100 subscriber mark. I think we're up to 107 subscribers on YouTube. We're trying to get to 1,000. 1,000 subscribers is our goal, so we're on our way there. And we are up over 6,000, 6,500, or approaching 7,000 views total on YouTube. So we're growing. Also, we're on TikTok now. I'm posting on TikTok, so trying everything to get as much reach as possible for the podcast. We're getting better every single week, and we're trying to start posting now every single week. So it'll be fun. Make sure you follow all of the social medias and you'll get to see all of the action and all of your doses of engineering success. Speaking of doses of engineering success, I don't know if there's actually, that's a pretty dumb transition, but speaking of engineering success, we wouldn't be as successful without our supporters. So shout out to John Ott, our top tier supporter. Join John Ott and you'll get a shout out at the beginning of every single episode of the Engineering Success Podcast for $10 a month. Thank you, John, for your support of the podcast. And then I don't really have any life updates other than the fact that we are joined yet again by Luke Callahan. How you doing, Luke?
Good. How are you, Daniel?
Oh, I'm blessed. It's a good time. It's a good time. Thank you for joining the podcast again. How do I keep on getting you to come back?
Well, I mean, I think you're doing a lot of good things. I mean, I like the content that you're making. And I think it's good information that they don't have a lot of out there. So if I can help out and provide another insight, that's definitely something that I want to help you do.
Thanks, Luke. Well, whenever you're here, the people know that that means that we have a fun new topic to talk about. So, what topic are we touching on this week?
This week, something that I think both of us are going to have a lot of input for is building a professional brand. And I mean, of course, we're going to have an engineering focus, but I think this is good content for people that are joining the workforce and especially entering a young professional role. So anybody out of college or anybody just starting out, I think it's going to be good information for them.
Sweet. So building your professional brand. So I guess we should probably start by talking about what professional branding is, right? So here's my understanding of professional branding. So that's kind of how people know you and in your professional circles. And that may seem really, really basic, but what are you known for? I'm stealing. Okay, I'm kind of stealing from you. But whenever people talk about you, what do they say? What's the first thing they say? That's what I kind of view your personal brand to be. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the big thing, right? Is what kind of defines you as an individual. And whenever people, I guess, see you or they have an opportunity to work with you, or even just, um, information that's transferred over from somebody, if you're switching roles or if, somebody's, talking about bringing you onto a team, they say, okay, well, what is this person like? Is he a good worker? Can I rely on him? Is he dependable? What are some things? What are some of his strong suits? What is he good at? And what are some of the things that we can expect him to kind of fall short on? So I think that's really what branding is, and kind of what you want to, I guess, like label yourself as.
Yeah, and that's why it's important, right? Because if you're trying to move into a new role, you're trying to move into a new team, you're trying to do anything new, then your personal brand is the first thing that other people are going to talk about whenever your manager is advocating for a raise for you on your behalf, they're going to speak to you on their knowledge of your personal brand. When somebody is thinking about getting you a promotion, they're going to speak to you on your personal brand. Whenever you are pitching yourself to a potential new employer, you are pitching your personal brand. So having a good understanding of what your personal brand is and being self-aware of what you're putting out there, I think, and you can chime in here, but I think is extremely important for your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, right? Is whenever they start, a lot of times people are just focused on output and productivity.
Hmm.
But something that you want to focus on, especially early in your career, is what you're known for, what you're known as, and building something that you can continue and take with you the rest of your career, right? You want to limit the number of blemishes or the I guess the things that people are going to say about you that don't necessarily put you in the light that you either want to be seen as or put you in a bad light that's going to be really limiting for you in the future.
Exactly. So we've talked about the importance of a personal brand, but maybe we should just back it up a little bit and talk about what we talked about. We kind of glossed on what a personal brand is, but let's talk about brands. So we got Nike. What's their personal brand?
Right. Yeah. So, I think nowadays we're definitely in this environment where with like Instagram and with all these different things,
Yeah.
people are really pushing mottos and they're pushing brands, so I mean, you think about it and it's like, what is that brand known for? Right. And typically it comes out as like a motto or a slogan. So with Nike, it's like, it's just do it. Right. Adidas, nothing is impossible. Disney has one where it's, first think, second believe, third dream, and finally dare, right? And they
Oh,
want to,
interesting.
yeah, and they want to push, and they're trying to create a world where, magic seems like a reality. And so that's those are the things that people they're known for. And there's even a quote. I think there's, and this is going to kind of segue into it, but Daniel has a clip for us that he may be able to pull up, and it's a guy, Inky Johnson, kind of talking about it, right? And so he talks about Nike and he talks about Adidas, and then he talks about, what I guess you're defined as, and what you stand for. So I think Daniel can go ahead and
When I
play
look
that.
at people, I always ask the question, I say, man, tell me what Nike stands for.
You know what? I thought I had it, but I am not sharing it yet. Let's try again. All right, let's try again. Here we go. I'm gonna turn down the volume. It started playing on its own. I don't know why I did that. All right, here we go.
When I look at people, I always ask the question, I say, man, tell me what Nike stands for. They said, oh, Ink, that's easy, just do it. I said, tell me what Adidas stands for. Oh, Ink, that's easy, man, impossible is nothing. I said, now tell me what you stand for. I said, when people look at you, do they think excuses? When people look at you, do they think victory? When people look at you, do they think that's a person that's going to give me everything they got, not on some days, but on every day, and it's not going to be predicated upon if I feel like it, because I think we all know if we only worked on the days when we felt like it, none of us would get much accomplished. I'm speaking of the commitment that says, I am going to stay true to what I said I would do long after the mood that I've set it in has left.
Perfect. Yeah. So why did we show that video? And again, I'm super sloppy with these transitions, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah, it's a part of the learning process.
Exactly.
Yeah, but as you kind of saw in the video, so like he talks about it, kind of the same thing. He says, what does Nike stand for? Oh, that's easy. Just do it. What does Adidas stand for? Nothing is impossible. And then he brings up, what do you stand for? And then he kind of builds on that with, whenever people see you, and he's an inspirational speaker or motivational speaker. So his are going to be a little bit more towards, what you're like as a person. And so he says, whenever people see you, what do they think? But I mean, it's a similar concept, right? So like whenever people, hear about you joining a team or being on a project or whatever, it's like, is that, is that somebody that I'm excited to work for or work
Hmm.
with? Or is that somebody that it's like, I really wish that we had gotten somebody else. It's the same way that maybe you would think about athletes on like a fantasy team. It's like, is that a guy that's going to be dependable? That's going to get me a lot of fantasy points, or is this somebody that like he's like I just needed to fill up a running back 2 spot, and so I just picked
Yeah.
up somebody, right? And so it's somebody that's gonna, ride the bench, or maybe I can trade him out and get somebody a little bit better, so it's what are you like? What do you bring to the team? And we want to focus on bringing something that is going to provide value to a team, or to whatever situation that you're in.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the things that go into building your personal brand? I think that one of the most important things is we've touched on it briefly, but it's your personal values, right? So, and how do these values come through in your work? So if your personal value is perseverance, that's one of my personal values, then the way that that comes through in my work is that I'm not going to be the first one to just drop something. And if I'm working on something and I have a task that I know is I'm capable of doing and it's a task I need to get done, then I'm gonna persevere to make sure that that task is done. I'm not gonna just drop that task and say, oh, it's not possible. So
Right.
what are some of your personal values and how do they relay into what you do on a daily basis at work?
Yeah. So I mean, I think whenever you start thinking about what you bring to the team, I think you want to try and avoid the things that are pretty like cliche, I guess. So I mean, I'm thinking specifically with engineers. So everybody with an engineering degree, they have some sort of credibility towards their intelligence level, or towards the amount, like, their ability to learn. So you want to try and focus on like the intangibles, right? The things that you can bring to the table that you may not necessarily get out of like a degree,
Yeah,
right? So for mine, I think mine is I guess relatability. So I think whenever people interact with me, I think they see like a someone that has a lot, like interacts really well with people, and can make people feel comfortable. But also they can tell that I'm excited, and that I want to work with people, right? I
yeah,
want to drive towards, the end goal of helping everybody out. And the other thing that I would like to think that I'm known for, that I'm good for, is quality of work. That was always something that was, really hard pressed whenever I was getting my engineering degree, and that was always something that I probably worry about a little too much, right? Is that,
yeah,
I want to be conscious of the work that I'm putting out and the deliverables, but because, whenever that's like the biggest thing, that people are going to notice you for, right? So like the
yeah,
work that you do, that's potentially going to get passed up the chain, and somebody that doesn't even know who you are is going to see that and say, "Oh, this is we can't use this, right? Like this is unusable, or this isn't any good, and we're going to have to redo it." So I try and be in a situation where it's like they look at it and they say, "Oh, this is really well done. This is something that we can use, or this is exactly what I'm looking for." So I think that's something that I deliver to the table, or that I bring to the table.
so that's your personal value is high quality of work and
Yeah.
your relatability. And that kind of
Yeah.
translates into the next thing about the next biggest part about your brand is your what is your unique value proposition? So yours is that somebody can always I mean, it's crazy to say that maybe this is unique, but yours is that they can always expect a high quality piece of product. It's gonna be professional, it's gonna be that is your one of your unique value proposition, but it's taking in the aspects of your personal values and your background, your education, your interests, your career goals, your skills all together, and then your that all comes together and forms your unique value proposition. So one of my unique value propositions is that I have a very, I guess, a wide lens understanding of the context around the things that I'm working in, but I'm able to work in a very narrow work scope. And I don't know how better to describe that, but one of my unique value propositions is earlier in my career, I have a very good breadth of understanding of the way things work in a larger sense. So and that's from the roles that I've worked in. That's the people that I have worked with in my roles and responsibilities, and then my ability to then communicate those things is a function of my education and my background. So that is what I've pulled together as one of my unique value propositions. What would you say is your unique value proposition that goes into your brand?
So I think my, I guess, unique value proposition is that, and this is something that maybe some perceive as a weakness, but I tried and twist it into a strength, is that I
Yes.
have, um, experience in a lot of different roles and a lot of different aspects of things, right? So, whenever I first started my career, originally I was in design, so I understood how the design aspect of things worked. Um,
Mhm.
and then after that, I, was actually out in the field working, as just, like a skilled labor, trades craft kind of person. So I got to see how working places performed and how, I guess, work is actually done, right down to a foreman and a journeyman or a helper level.
Yeah.
And so I understand like how they think and what goes into it. And then I also have some experience with, I guess, the project management and the construction side of things, right? So I have an understanding of how contracts are built out, how financially things go into place and how things work, but also like planning out work and how that needs to be done, and things that you can do to ensure a good quality, um, I guess a good quality of work is done, or whatever
Yeah.
you're trying to accomplish is achieved.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't necessarily do that, especially not 3 or 4 years into their career.
Yeah.
Maybe at 10 or 15, you've experienced some of these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, like 3 years into my career, having uh, I don't want to say been able to, but being put in the situations that I was in, I'm able to kind of capitalize on that.
Yeah. Exactly. Thanks, Luke.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we know what a brand is. Our values drive our brand. Our values contribute to what our unique value proposition is, and then overall that together kind of builds the overall identity of what our professional brand is. So what kind of engineer you want to be known as is Luke's talked about precision, timeliness, quality of work, preparedness, good communicator, and I mean team player. I mean, ideally we want to be all of those things, but focusing on demonstrating those things, focusing on sorry, I got a notification that the stream was fell apart, but it's back together. All right, but focusing on those specific character traits of a worker contributes to you then building your professional brand and being a positive brand that other people talk about. And now that we've built our brand, I think that there's some action items right around brand building. So the first one I think is by advocating for yourself, right? So not only do you have to work on your brand, but then you have to kind of push your brand. So what does that look like? So for me, that looks like knowing when your promotion cycle is and whenever your merit increase cycle is. So most companies have promotion cycles and merit increases. So at any point in 1 year, you could be eligible for both promotion and merit increase. And part of that is advocating based on your brand. So collecting those data points and like, hey, my work product has been really high. I've gotten feedback that my work product is really high. So and kind of pushing that up to your manager so that your manager either knows that you're eligible for a merit increase, or maybe using those things to advocate for specific positions that you want to get promoted into. So personal being a personal advocate is super important, and having a good understanding of what your professional brand is will then equip you to be a better professional personal advocate for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, also, I think, and this is going to be kind of into your next point, but that's also a good opportunity for you to get some constructive feedback. Not only, I think you should have some sort of self-assessment of that. So you should be aware of like what you're good at, what you're not good at, but also, kind of the route that you want to take, right? So if you want to be, and I guess this is kind of where you want to take your career, right? So like if you, are looking to take your career into being, like if you are really good with design and that's kind of like the route that you want to go, like you want to be a senior PE or a lead engineer or something like that, like you have to, build a brand around, the quality of work that's being performed and, the success of the design that you're getting into. If you're looking to be a manager, then you have to, potentially like look into branding yourself and putting yourself in a situation where you can take on responsibilities with other people, where you can develop other engineers around you. And so I think you have to do a little bit of a self-assessment of yourself. But also, going back to that, like that's a really good opportunity for you to get some constructive feedback, right? Some
Yeah.
constructive criticism. you can talk to your manager and say, hey, what are some things that you would like for me to see me work on as an engineer, as a person, as a team member. Do I play well with others, right? Like if I'm in a meeting with somebody, am I just condescending towards people, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and sometimes like you have to, you're not always going to be around engineers. Sometimes you're
exactly.
going to be around, people that, or maybe come from the field, right? And so you're around
Yep, yep,
craft, journeyman or
yep.
whatever, and so you're going to have to play well with them. Like you can't be condescending towards them and say, "Oh, well, you just wouldn't understand because you're not an
Yeah,
engineer." And it's like the level of knowledge that they bring into the table. And so, that's an opportunity for you to get some feedback on what you're like and how things that you can improve on so that way you can take a step in the right direction over the next year, or things that you can note that, hey, I really need to be, whenever I'm in a meeting, I really need to be open and receptive to other people, right? I need to,
yeah.
not look at them in a poor light, but say, hey, let's see what they bring to the table and let's work with them, right? And put yourself in a good situation. So,
Exactly. And that that assessment process comes through you either through your corporate performance and development program doing that self-assessment, or if your manager is not really the mentor that you need for that, then identify another mentor that you can do that self-assessment with, somebody that's in a position that you aspire to be in, that you can kind of do that assessment with and say, hey, just like one person to another, you've worked with me, what's your perception of me, and what are some areas that you think I can grow in to kind of grow into where I want to be, because you're advocating for yourself where you want to be, and then the people in that position can give you feedback on how you get there. So yeah, I think that, thank you, Luke, for bringing up this topic. Personal branding is exceptionally important. The brand is important because it's how people know you. It's how people talk about you, and it's your avenue to career growth. So thank you, Luke, for bringing up this topic. I don't have any other things to say about it. Any other closing comments from you on the importance of a personal brand or a professional brand?
I mean, I think the big thing is just don't get too caught up in just the deliverables, right? Remember that you're like one of the things that you offer or bring to a company is also who you are as a person. So do remember that whenever you're going through and you're developing yourself as a young professional and a young engineer. It's like, hey, I bring more to the table than just somebody that can output work, right? I'm a human being and I provide certain insights and I have certain things that people are going to look for. And also, again, back to like the self performance thing and the mentorship.
Mhm.
Um, I think that is a really good opportunity, right? Is to ask your mentor, ask somebody that you work closely with. But I think also, reach out to other people too, right? Other people that you work with and say, hey, like whenever you work with me, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think I could improve on? What do you think I do
Interesting.
well? What do you think I not do well? Right. So for instance, like I was working, whenever I was a project engineer, I worked on I guess, the concrete side of things, or I worked with structural and foundations. But of course, like we interact with electrical, we interact with MEP, and so you can sit down with the electrical or the MEP manager and say, hey, like, how do you feel like working with me? Right? Y'all, I mean, you're a part of the same company, you're part of the same team, and they can
Exactly.
provide some really, some good feedback. Now, you may need to have some thick skin because they may say, well, I'll be honest, I don't think you really bring a whole lot to the table. I
Oh
think you
no.
need to do this. Yeah, and I mean, that may just be because you're young, or I mean, they can say, well, we see that you're bright and that you're intelligent, or I know that you're bright and you're intelligent, but you don't seem to take a lot of initiative, right? Or you don't seem to chime in whenever it's appropriate. And I think you need to have a little bit more confidence. And all those are good things, right? All those things are things that you can work on and that you can improve on, because
Mhm.
they're giving you good feedback. They're saying good things about you, but you're
Yeah.
not capitalizing on what you have to bring to the table. So I mean, I guess just remember those things, and just remember that you're developing as a person and an engineer just as much as you are trying to refine your ability to be productive and produce work.
Exactly. Well, I think that's a perfect way to close out this segment. So thank you, Luke. Let's take a quick breather. If you're listening to the podcast format, you'll get an ad break here, and then we'll come back here. All right. So now that we have done our intro segment, our recurring segment is, as always, this week in LinkedIn Lunatics. So our first one is a double whammy. I'm calling it This Week in Elon Simps. So we have in my opinion, a double lunatic here. So let's see what I found. So here we go, Luke. First one is, I'm sure it is as simple as employees being lazy. So this is a person, we've blurred out their name. They have somebody else blurred out their name. They have come up with this hypothetical conversation that says, "Hey, Elon Musk, hey team, we're gonna have to work hard. Twitter employees, what? That's so crazy. I quit." Elon Musk, nice. All my lazy, complacent employees are out of here, and now I can build an absolute powerhouse with the best of the best. Twitter employees who quit. Yeah, I quit my last job because our CEO said we had to work hard. So anyway, I think I'll be a great fit for your organization. And then here's number two. Again, people just keep on coming up with these hypothetical conversations that they think happened between Elon. Uh, Twitter engineer, what is this thing called work? Elon Musk, we pay you $300,000 per year. In exchange, we expect you to write code. Twitter engineer, that's unfair. I thought I was getting paid to do nothing. Elon Musk, not anymore. Twitter engineer, I quit. All right, so it seems like people just have this perception that all the people that no longer work for Twitter anymore just did not care about working. What do you think, Luke? I mean, I don't understand. Like, people have different opinions, and people can float on different sides of the aisle on whether or not they think that Elon Musk is doing a very good job. But I think it's an absolute mischaracterization to say that all the people that don't want to work in the Elon Musk type of work environment are lazy people that don't want to try. Because I think that that's a mischaracterization. I mean, I have known people that have worked at SpaceX. I've known people. I don't know anybody personally that works at Tesla, but I know some people that have worked at SpaceX, and that's not a good work life balance from what I've heard. So I don't blame people for not wanting to work in that environment. And additionally, a lot of these people are leaving because the conditions of their employment have changed, right? So people negotiated their salary based on remote work, and maybe they don't live anywhere in proximity to an office, or there's other benefits that I'm hearing from at least what I'm watching on Twitter is that people's compensation structure is changing based on different things that they no longer have access to. So I have, I mean, and if your hours are you're working go up and your compensation doesn't change, then I have no aspirations, no aspirations against anybody who's leaving that environment. However, I will say that I do think there's a recession coming, so maybe going out on the open job market right now, maybe not the best thing, but I don't know. What do you think? That was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I find it very unlikely that all those people would leave Twitter and leave a job, especially if they're paying $300,000 a year. I find it very hard to believe that all of them would leave because there was a sudden expectation that they're actually supposed to start delivering work, right? Or that they're actually supposed to start being productive. I'm sure that if they're being compensated $300,000 a year, that they are already outputting work, right? Like they're already,
Imagine.
yeah. I mean, it's really hard to validate somebody at $300,000 a year. And also Twitter is uh profitable. So if you're paying all these people and they're not doing anything, um, like why? Like that's just going to be really bad for overhead if you if you have a bunch of people or you're paying a bunch of people for them to not be doing anything whenever it's pretty much like a completely automated system, right? And they can just, not have anybody working for them and still make the ridiculous amount of money that they are. Um, I think the likelihood of what it is and why people are leaving, I think it's more of a cultural change. And I think, Elon coming in, I think it's just things that they don't line up with as, uh, people and with the previous culture that Twitter had. Um, and I mean, of course, that's, going into a little bit of politics, which we don't want to discuss here. But I think that's probably the biggest reason that people would be leaving Twitter. Um, and
Yeah,
also, I mean,
everything's changed. Yeah, it's just not
yeah,
the same. It's not the same environment to work in. That's down to the culture of the company, which we've talked right a bunch about. If you want to work for a company, you want the company to be a cultural fit for you. That's one of
yeah,
the things we've talked about. So if it's no longer a cultural fit for you, then that's fine to leave. And so I don't understand why
yeah,
people, all the Elon hive is just so up in arms about it. Like people are just leaving because they don't want to work there anymore. And
yeah,
the conditions of their employment have changed from the work environment to their compensation structure, in my opinion. So I don't understand all the people that are. I mean, here I am being a little bit of a hypocrite because I definitely put this topic on the podcast because my Elon YouTube videos are getting more views than the other ones. So I'm kind of farming karma myself. But that's what these people are doing. They're farming karma. Okay, I'm just doing it openly and I'm telling everybody I'm doing it. So
yeah,
I'm 100%. This is 100% on the podcast because the Elon content, people watch it. So that's why I'm doing it,
yeah,
and that is the same reason why these people are doing it. But they're doing it on LinkedIn, and I don't like it. I don't
yeah,
like it. That's why I put it here. I don't like it. But I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the other big thing too is that like some of those companies, like take Amazon for example. Like Amazon is a big one that kind of doesn't get discussed unless you know people that work there or you have an opportunity to work there. Um, Amazon has ridiculously high turnover rates, right? I
yeah,
mean, even at the management or the professional level, I know a guy that works with a friend of mine. He got an offer at Amazon, and it was like a 30 or 40K pay increase, and he's like, "Well, absolutely." I mean, he was already making a lot of money. He was working for one of the big oil and gas companies, and
nice.
so he had the opportunity to jump over to Amazon, and his mindset going into it was, okay, I'll work there for 2, 3, 4 years with the understanding that it's not very good with my work life balance. It's not where I want to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
But I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to get a lot of experience, and it's something that's going to be a resume builder. And I think, whenever people first started with Twitter, they had the thought that, okay, this is going to be something that I can make a career out of, right? I can
yeah,
be here for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, depending on whenever they came in and started working for Twitter. And now, I'm sure Elon, as you kind of mentioned with SpaceX, it's going to be a little bit of a similar thing, right? Where he's just going to make them like workhorses, and they're just going to be expected to work potentially, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And it's not going to be good for the work life balance. It's like, look, I have kids at home. I have, a wife that I actually want to spend time with and
yeah,
live life. And so it's just not a cultural fit. And I think the big thing that people are hung up on is the fact that these Twitter employees are making a lot of money, and they're stepping away from it due to, reason like people can't fathom it, right? Because people are stuck in this world of like, well, I make $80,000 a year. I would do anything for a $220,000 pay increase. But, whenever you're at that point, there's a good chance that even if in a world where you are making $300,000 a year, you could probably step into another role that's going to pay you somewhat similarly, and you'll have that better work-life balance. So why
exactly,
would you continue to work
exactly,
yourself to death whenever you have
exactly.
this opportunity somewhere else?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll close with this. Um, Elon, Twitter CEO of Twitter, like it or love it, he's the profit decision maker, right? He owns
Yeah,
profit and loss, so he is as a CEO or whatever role he's appointed himself. But he's majorly influencing profit and loss, so he's making profit and loss decisions for Twitter, the company, and Twitter, the employees they are their own corporations. As employees, you're your own corporation. You are trying to maintain profit and loss for your household. So all of the people, just like Elon Musk, has the ability to do whatever he wants. They have the ability to do whatever they want as well. So
yeah,
Elon Hive, chill out.
yeah.
But anyways, that's what we're all doing is we're all farming karma after Elon because uh, he sells. All right, so I give them 10 out of 10 for LinkedIn Lunatics on LinkedIn. Luke, can you chime in with the score?
I mean, I think it's pretty high up there. I mean, also the fact of it, the truth of the matter is there's a lot of speculation here because they don't have all the details. I mean, they're just hearing, like through the grapevine, it's probably a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh source.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's all been like convoluted and all like out of whack. But they don't have all the details. They don't know like the truth of the matter. So they're just making a very generalized statement, which is inappropriate. So yeah, I would say 9 or 10 because you shouldn't have an opinion on it unless you're directly involved.
Amen. All right. Let's go into the next one. This one says, my first startup was acquired by Oracle. My second startup was acquired by Dropbox. My third and current startup is valued at more than 1 billion. My co-founders and I have used the same set of principles to start all three companies. One, find a problem that's huge and painful. Two, understand that problem more deeply than anyone else. Three, assemble a team that's uniquely qualified to solve that problem. And four, never stop talking to your customers. And this was posted in LinkedIn Lunatics. And I'll give my first take. I don't think this is really much of a lunatic take at all. I mean, it is written like a LinkedIn lunatic post where we got all these lines, but I guess the algorithm says that people on LinkedIn can only read things that are one sentence and then space and then one sentence and then one space. Apparently, maybe that's just the algorithm. So he's definitely trying to farm some karma and maybe push his startup. But I mean, I think these are pretty generally uh, good points, advice. For they're very basic, but they're good points. And this whole comment that I think this guy likes to sell his startups. I mean, shoot, I mean, he looks like he's doing a pretty good job of it. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
guess so. I mean, I have no negative impressions against this man for being able to very successfully sell his startups. I mean, good on him. I wish I could do that.
yeah. I mean, that's some people make a profession out of doing that, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
you look at, I mean, look at all the people that go on like Shark Tank, right? They invented, I mean, theirs is a product typically, right? It's some sort
Hmm.
of invention or some sort of conceptual idea, and they're well, that's what they're doing, right? They created something, now they want to sell it to somebody. They want, I mean, sometimes they sell the whole thing, sometimes they're only selling off 10%, but people make a profession out of, with out of startups, right? And so what he's doing, I think that's a pretty, it's very generic, but
Yeah.
I think if you can find that, like if you can find a situation where you do find a problem that's huge and painful, there's a lot of money in products that will make ease of use or user interface significantly easier or streamlined. There's a lot of money to be made there. So if he can find a problem, understand that problem, and then pull together a team that can solve it and sell it off.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's making, millions and billions of dollars. If
Looks
what
like
he's
it.
saying
Yeah.
is true,
Yeah.
then yeah, that's what some people do as a profession, and that's how some people make millions and billions of dollars.
Yeah. I'm just impressed. I mean, if these are actually his first three startups, which I don't know what he's using to characterize what is and what isn't a startup, then that's pretty. It's a pretty good track record. So
Yeah,
as you can see, I commented down below. Looks like he's super successful. Good on him. Not a lunatic. And yes, people, you will find me trolling in the comment sections of all these subreddits that I pull from. So I would say not a lunatic. 0 to 10. How about you?
yeah. Yeah, I would say not a lunatic. The only thing that I would be cautious about is that his startup probably did not end up becoming Oracle, and his startup probably did not end up becoming Dropbox. He probably created some sort of facet within Oracle or within Dropbox. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I would agree. I don't think he's a lunatic. I think he's just trying to deliver good advice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with it.
Also, I just want to point out we use the word lunatic because of the name of the segment. We are throwing around the word lunatic pretty loosely. The only reason why we're using the word lunatic is because it starts with a letter L and it's the name of the subreddit. So, not actually calling anybody a lunatic because I feel like that's probably pretty harsh. But anyways, I feel like I'd frame it with that. All right, so let's take a quick break, and then how many career questions do you want to answer, Luke?
As many as we have time for. Did you get to the guy that was saying something in the chat? Did you want to answer that one?
I sent him an email, and I had some follow up questions for him. So I'm gonna wait for some follow up questions to my email chain that I have with him, and then I will respond. a little bit more to that, probably in the next episode.
Okay, that'll work.
All right, let's cut to a break. And we're back. Perfect. Next question. Would you opt for a company offering you permanent employment but very low pay, or a company offering you a 1 year contract with significantly higher pay? I have a job offer from a legal tech company that's offered me a permanent position with a pay of £36. £36,000, not £36. However, I have an offer from a law firm that's offering me an associate program, but on a 1 year contract pending my performance review, after which they may extend it or make it permanent. The law firm is offering me £120,000. I met with, with the legal tech company, I can work my way up as it is a junior. But of course, the salaries may not get as high as what I could receive in the private law firm. The working hours are flexible. I can work from home, laid back culture, and of course, the position will be permanent. But the law firm obviously offers a lot more money and benefits. Okay, interesting. It's not just the contract, it's also the benefits. So I guess there's benefits on top of this £120,000. I'm going to assume there is. The working hours will be deplorable. Okay, define deplorable. And I may have no life. Okay, define no life. And I'm also worried about what would happen if I do not get my contract extended after 1 year. I want to go with the law firm, even though I might not have as much of a life. I don't know. I could save a lot more salary as a rainy day fund as I look for something more time friendly at the end of my contract. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start by
Okay,
saying
go for it.
the dollars are not like, as, your life is more likely to be deplorable if you're broke. And like, I mean, I think that like making 3 times as much money is, I mean, the work environment would have to be so. I mean, we just got off talking about this with Twitter, so maybe I'm going to sound like I'm flipping a dial here, but like, it's not even close. Like, it's not
Yeah.
even close. I mean, I would take the £120,000, and then I'd start looking for my next job now. And then and spend that 1 year not only letting them evaluate you on the contract, but also you're evaluating them. So take the $120,000 job, and then read your contract to make sure that you understand what your obligations are under the contract, so you're not putting yourself in this position where you could be in breach. But then go ahead and start evaluating that company and evaluating other companies, and seeing what would be the good fit for you. But man, you have a lot more money and benefits. I mean, your life will be, even though your work life maybe lacks, your life will be, I mean, I don't know where you are living, but whenever you're looking at that big of a pay disparity, your quality of life is going to be significantly different, based on the income there. So I would say definitely go with the one that makes 3 times as much money. Luke, what do you say?
I mean, I think this goes back to what we talked about on the last time I was on the podcast, right? Is that you have to weigh your options. And so if 36,000 pounds a year is a livable wage and it's the quality of life that um that you're expecting or that you're willing to work within or live within, then
Yeah.
and that's what's important to you is the laid back culture, working from home, job security, right? Because if the position is going to be permanent, I mean that's that takes a lot of stress off. So if that's what's important to you and you can make that 36,000 pounds a year work, then I mean go for it. I don't see why you wouldn't. However, I think that there are a lot of steps that you can take in the right direction with the law firm that's offering 120,000 pounds a year. So I mean, you kind of mentioned it, Daniel. You get in there, and there's a good chance that like if you work in there, it's going to be a good reference for your next job. So you get in there, you work there for a year, and then you look at other law firms, and you look to them, so you kind of have them on the back burner, and at least right? Like at least you have kind of you can build a game plan around the fact that you're only going to be there potentially only be there for a year. Now, I mean, if you're a good if you're a good lawyer, then you
Yeah.
could potentially have a career there. um and so just you be ready for it, right? And then at your next job maybe you can get a similar kind of situation where it's more of a laid back culture, you can work from home, but you can argue for a higher salary.
Yeah.
So I mean, if it was me, I would probably take the larger salary just because I think there's more upsides than um, just the salary. I think it's probably connections. You're gonna have significantly higher connections, or you're gonna have just a very reputable resume working there. Um, and then I think it'll again be like good experience. But then with more money and more benefits, the life that you live outside of work is gonna be significantly better for you. Yeah, you may not have much of a life, and it may be like long hours. And I'm sure as a lawyer, whenever you say long hours, you're looking at 14, 16 hours a day for 5 to 6 days a week. But whenever you get those weekends or whenever you get those days off, you can have the chance to travel. You can have the chance to, get the things that you want, or have a nicer place to live, or buy a house sooner and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, that's the one that I would go for.
Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, I can't make that decision for you. I can just give you advice on what I would do or the way that I would look at it. So
Yeah, and I'd also look at it in this perspective, and I'll close with this. No job is permanent, so yeah, they say
yeah,
it's permanent employment, but I mean they could easily dismiss you. I mean, unless there's employment laws that are different in the country that this person is in that I'm not familiar with. But I mean, you could just as easily get fired from,
yeah,
yeah. So I mean, unless there's employment laws at play here that I'm not aware of, then take that into consideration. But yeah, there's just a significant opportunity cost here by choosing the 36,000 over the 120,000. So I would
yeah,
say take the bigger money. And if worst case scenario, it's just for a year. So spend that entire time evaluating whether or not you want to renew with them yourself after that year. Because
yeah,
I think it'll be a lot easier for you to find another $36,000 a year job. It's going to be a little bit harder for you to find another $120,000 a year job. But when you make
yeah,
that money, then you're also setting that standard that this is my compensation level. This is the kind of compensation I expect, and
absolutely.
you can kind of leverage that a little bit better whenever you're moving throughout your career. So that's what I have to say. But I wish you the best of luck.
And
And
save that money. Save that
yeah,
extra money.
save that money exactly. Don't blow it, because then what?
Yeah. Because then if you can't find work for 6 months, you have something that you can lean back on.
Yes, sir. All right, next one. How do you manage to leave work at work? I'm about 4 years into a mechanical engineering career, and I'm struggling to walk away at the end of the day and not keep working on it in my head all night. Part of it is that I know what the next step is and can execute it to a point that I just need to write it down in the morning. The other part is that I'm afraid that I'll forget what that next step is unless I just knock it out, even if I write down what the next step is before I leave. What are your tricks for being able to walk away from work? So I'll give a little quick answer, and then I'll hand over to you, Luke. So I kind of use the last thing that I do before I leave work every single day, and this is my activity that I do before I shut down, is I kind of do a debrief on my day, the things that I've accomplished that day, and so that way I can effectively remember what I did and explain it to anybody else if anybody else has any questions. And then I also do a notes, like say, here's the things that need to get done tomorrow, and kind of give myself the notes that I need to frame things up. And that's my last activity of the day. I frame in a little bit of time at the end of the day before I shut down that I actively focus on planning for my next day and what else I need to do by the end of that week and all my other upcoming deliverables. That's the last activity I do every day, is planning what I'm going to do the next day, so that way I can kind of step away from work. What do you do, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you just have to kind of one, come up with a process like what you're talking about, Daniel. I think you have to come up with a process that allows you to leave work at work.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is that I think you need to kind of get into the mental headspace of saying, hey, like work is done for the day. There's nothing else that I can do.
Hmm.
And just accept that, like whatever wasn't done for the day, it'll get done tomorrow, right? And I mean that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Um, because if you're continuously thinking about it all day, I mean, like how much of that is going to cut into your personal life? If you're out with, because I mean, like, what happens if you have plans after work, right? Like, what happens if you're going out to get a drink with a buddy of yours, and like you stop thinking about work, and then all of a sudden you come back in the next day, or you go back to you go back to your place and you're getting ready, to go to sleep and start the next day. What happens if you
Yeah.
can't remember it then, right? Like, you're putting
Yeah.
yourself in a situation where you could potentially not be successful just for the fact that you're not constantly thinking about work all the time. So I think you need to try and find that balance and try and, look at things and say, hey, like, work is paying me for, 40 hours a week. That's the expectation, 40, 45, 50, whatever the expectation is. And so, like, I'm gonna do that and do my part to do 40 hours. They're not asking for my life. They're not asking for this constant, thought process throughout the day, and constantly being feeling like I'm at work and on the job and thinking about ways to fix solutions. Leave that stuff at work, and I think a lot of it is just you've got to you've got to take that mental step and that get into that headspace of saying, hey, I'm leaving work, we're leaving that at home. We're leaving that there. I'm coming home, and I'm not gonna think about it anymore.
Yeah. And I think that along with the mindset thing, the way that I describe it is that you get to work, right? You start your work at a certain time of the day, a certain time of the each you go to work on certain dates. That is whenever you go to work because you have that you're prioritizing that time as that is work time. So you're going to go to work that day and you're going to go to work from those hours. You're going to be at work at least that time uh, because you schedule it and you prioritize it, and you have to schedule your personal time the same way. You have to treat it like it that is the time that you have as personal time, and you're going to prioritize it as such, and you're going to uh, cut off time, just like how you cut off time in the morning to go drive to work. You're going to cut off time at the end of the day to drive home. That is your activity. That is your planned thing. Your planned time is not working, and that's the thing is that work time is time that is scheduled, right? And we don't have necessarily the same perception. Some people don't have that perception about their personal time, but their personal time, that is a scheduled time of the day that you're no longer working. And treating it like that will help you kind of prioritize that. And I'm the biggest hypocrite in the world because I bring work home all the time, but um, that is what I try to do. I'm not perfect, but that is what I try to do.
Yeah, yeah. I think we all tend to fall into this trap of work kind of bleeding over into our personal lives. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just trying to get into that headspace of saying, hey, like, we're done, right? So, like, if you have to take, an extra hour of your workday remembering that solution or coming back to that conclusion of whatever you're trying to work on, then that's time allocated towards what that is anyway. So take that time during your work days to do it.
Yeah. All right. We have three more. Let's get through them real nice and quick. All right, next one. What do college interns actually do during internships? Oh, this will be fun for us to talk about. I'm a soon to graduate high school student, and I intend to pursue a degree in aerospace engineering. And it is my understanding that in college, especially summer before junior and senior years, internships are very important for career development. What do these interns actually do? Do they get paid? I've seen things that say yes, but these students aren't college graduates yet, so what can they actually do? So let's touch on this first. They should get paid, right, Luke? Should they get paid?
Depending on the internship, but for an engineering degree, I think that there is a competitive market, enough of a competitive market that you should be getting paid.
Sweet. And I think they always should get paid, but that's my shtick. All right, perfect. All right, now that we've established that, all right, what did these interns actually do? So let's talk about what we did in our internship. I'd say it was a mix of tasks that we had assigned to us, tasks that we demonstrated interest in and then got put onto ourselves, and then also generic intern specific things. Is that a pretty good summary or am I missing anything?
You actually did work during your internship?
I did do work during my internship, Luke. Contrary to popular belief, I when I go to work, I actually do work. How about you? Did you not do any work, Luke?
Yeah, no, I did some work. So,
You did more than me, that's for sure.
uh,
I did like a couple takeoffs, and that was kind of the main
yeah.
thing that I
Well,
did.
I think
Yeah.
I think the big thing that interns do is, first you're kind of networking and you're getting the chance to meet people and you're getting the chance to meet professionals.
Yeah.
But I mean, the biggest task that you should probably be doing while you're there is you should be learning about the company and learning about culture, and learning about what the expectations is for you whenever you get out of school and whenever you start working, and then also what your expectations for what the company should be like for you. Now there will be some things that you will be able to complete and do without having a degree. Like there are some things that even that I do that I don't need an engineering degree to have done, right? Like,
Hmm.
some sort of, data analytics, or maybe, if I have experience with which you should by junior and senior year, you should have some experience with modeling. So maybe, you just go in there and do some modeling. Maybe you can do some basic design stuff. But those are all things that you can do, and so there will be work that you can actually accomplish. And some internships are even sophisticated enough that you'll have some sort of project. And so
I
I
saw ours. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm sure I don't know, maybe I don't remember the exact plot of the movie, but the one with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn whenever they went to intern at Google, like
I
they
don't
had a
remember that
project.
one. What's it called?
I don't remember exactly, but they
I'll
they
look it
had
up.
a but they had a project, right? They had something that they had to work on with a team of other interns throughout the
The
summer.
internship.
Was it the internship?
Yeah, that
Okay,
was
yeah,
it.
that's
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I wanted to say the intern, but that wasn't right. But yeah, so during that movie, I mean, it's similar to that, right? You'll get assigned some sort of task or some sort of project that will be rudimentary enough or basic enough that you don't need an actual engineering degree. You don't need 9 months or 12 months to do it. So, you can do that during your internship.
Yeah. Exactly. But then other people, I mean, depending on what kind of interest you demonstrate and stuff like that, um, you 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 might have other things that you get to do. Um, um, for example, I really wanted to be involved in helping to put together an estimate, and I was an estimating intern, so I got involved and they pulled me in to help do some takeoffs, and that was for an actual project. And when I was an intern working in a machine shop, it was a much more hands-on internship, so I had a lot of, um, it was it just depends on the nature of the internship, but you can do things. So, um, yeah, sweet. All right, but yeah, college interns actually do things. It's paid, um, but yeah, depending on what capabilities you show and what willingness you show, then that kind of influences what you get to do in your internship. So, demonstrate a lot of willingness to do things, um, and you'll get more out of your internship and get to do more things. So, all right.
So, so Daniel, it looks like you're getting a little bit of feedback in the chat. Is it ready to bring up?
Yeah, so let's scrap these other two. We'll save these two
Yeah,
just to look
we could.
ahead for next one. Is it worth pursuing engineering? That'll come up in the next episode. And is
Yep.
electrical engineering more favorable? Will come up in the next episode. Let me pull away for a second. So we had a audience question and we have them in the audience as well. They asked, and we're gonna go back and forth with you in the chat here, so stand by. So the question in the chat was, all right. So, hello, sir. I'm a student at community college trying to earn some credits for UNT. So it sounds like they might be in the DFW area. I am mostly taking my core classes there. I want to get those out of the way first. I plan on taking some classes before heading into my program, things like 3D printing and intro to design classes to help make the learning process easier for me. My main goal is to go into UNT's mechanical engineering energy program. I want to take those classes and get a good degree in it. I also wanted to try and learn some skills in engineering technology to make me more employable. My main goal is to work in the field of instrumentation or powertrain. I was wondering if I can do both. I would like your advice on this stuff, please. And I wrote them a response, and my clarifying questions were, do they want to work in vehicles, um, or they want to work in what do they want to work in specifically, what industries? And they clarified that for powertrain, they mostly meant engines or people that focus on powertrain components such as the engine, transmission, drive shaft, transfer case, axles, and differentials, as well as the supporting software and electronics that you find in modern vehicles. So it sounds like this person is really interested in working on powertrain engineering, so for vehicles. So they asked about UNT's mechanical and energy engineering program, and it sounds like, oh, it's about machines and then energy. Um, so specifically this program, again, I'm not the most proficient in this program, but it looks like it kind of focuses um on energy generation from like I don't know, whenever I work in energy and chemicals, so when I hear energy generation, I think of like energy and chemicals. But I guess that, and it kind of depends on, you kind of have to ask the people that are running the program, is this the program, tell them like, hey, I want to work on powertrains, is this the program that you offer that fits the best with that? Because I know that either the dean of the engineering department or the admissions person that's focused on engineering admissions, that if you give them an idea of what you want to work on, then then they're going to be able to kind of help you out. Though I'd say that, like, if I was wanting to work in the automotive industry or on vehicles and I wanted to work on engines and powertrains and stuff like that, I don't know about you, Luke, but I would kind of venture more towards just a mechanical engineering degree. I mean, or an I don't know if automotive engineering is a thing, but I know that a lot of the those companies that do those types of things, they'll employ mechanical engineers, they'll employ electrical engineers, they'll employ all different types of engineers, right, to do different roles. So if you're coming in as a college hire, you know, I think that the easiest way to get hired by one of these companies is to have a degree that is something that they can recognize. And they might recognize a mechanical and energy engineering degree because it has mechanical engineering in it and it's ABET accredited, so that's good. But they might even be a little bit more comfortable with just a mechanical engineering degree. And but what do you think about that?
So I think first you probably want to take a step back a little bit and
Yeah,
do similar to what Daniel's saying. So I think typically whenever you see a degree that's focusing on power or energy, it's typically more power generation. And whenever it's power generation, you're looking at really big combustion engines, you're looking at turbines, you're looking at stuff
yeah.
like that. That's
Like
going to
the
be,
Wärtsiläs of the world, right? Those are like simple cycle engines for industrial power applications. So
yep. So you're
that's an
looking at something that's going to make hundreds of megawatts of power, not something that's specifically for a smaller ICE or internal combustion engine, right? So something for a vehicle. If you it sounds like what you want to do is you want to be an R&D,
Mhm.
or if you want to do some design work for vehicles. I don't know about you, Daniel, but I don't think I know anybody that ended up in that career path. I don't know how lucrative it is to end up
Yeah,
there.
I don't know anybody
Um,
personally, unfortunately, so I'm definitely not a subject matter expert on that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I think probably what you want to do is, and we talked about it a little bit, is how to set yourself up for success. Whenever you're picking a school or whenever you're picking a career, you probably want to find out. Go to LinkedIn and see if you can find people that are in R&D for that kind of stuff, and see what they do. Because there's a good chance that people that are doing R&D for any sort of vehicle or automotive, they may have master's and PhD degrees. Um, Now you asked about the difference between powertrain and instrumentation. So um, powertrain is probably going to be more on the lines of working with the combustion engine and then also with the transmission, like the gears and all that kind of stuff to output that mechanical energy into your drive shaft and then into the tires or into your differential and your axles. Instrumentation is going to be different because it's more of an electrically driven thing, and it's going to be more of electrical slash
Control
computer,
systems.
yeah, control systems.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if there's something I don't know if there's going to be a degree that can be all encompassing for both those things, unless you want to get a mechanical engineering degree with the focus on you may have to get something that's not even necessarily focused on power. You may want to get something that's more focused on the power transmission part of it. So something that's more focused on statics and dynamics and that sort of stuff, as opposed to the thermodynamic properties of what's going on within that combustion engine. But I don't know if there's something that you can do that's going to be that as well as tie in with a instrumentation degree. And if you do, that's going to end up being probably you're going to have to get a mechie degree and an electrical engineering degree, or you're going to have to
No,
get.
no, not both. Come on. No, but
I
you can
I
take
mean I think
elective. You can take electives. All right. So let's back out. Let's back out. So you have to take, like, you have to take entry level. Like, for example, if you're a mechanical engineer, you're gonna take a. Did you take a circuits class, Luke?
yeah, I took a
Okay,
circuits
you
class.
took a physics class for electromagnetism. So you took the prerequisites for electrical engineering electives. So, for example, you could take an elective course. You don't have to you can get a mechanical engineering degree or whatever this. I don't know how narrow this mechanical and energy degree program is, because I wouldn't say that there's a job title out there that is mechanical and energy engineer. There's mechanical engineers that work in the energy industry, but I wouldn't say that there's a job title called mechanical and energy engineer. Not that I've ever seen before. But say, for example, if this person wanted to work on engines, I was a mechanical engineer. That's what I studied in college, mechanical engineering. I took an elective course on engines, right?
Yep.
So I learned about the different. I learned about. Did you take an elective course on engines, Luke?
No, they didn't offer it, but they
Yeah.
typically have one.
Yeah. And then I have a friend that went and got his master's degree and focused in turbine engines. So, like, if you're really specific in certain type of power generation and certain types of engines, or anything like that, then there's master's degree programs that allow you to focus on that, right? But I wouldn't recommend trying to split yourself into two undergraduate degree programs. And yeah, I mean, this program, it looks like it's focused in mechanical, and then also has some direction that sends you into the energy industry or energy generation. So I think that this is kind of an example of what I kind of created for myself. And but would you necessarily have to get a? Sorry for coming in and just saying no off the bat. But I just want to advise hardly strongly against getting two undergraduate engineering degrees.
Well, it was more along the lines of if you wanted to do both. Like, I don't know if they're going to take someone that has. I don't know if you're going to be able to fill the roles of an instrumentation or an electrical engineer without
Yeah,
a very strong electrical engineering background. So
yeah,
if you wanted to end up in a position where you do both, but if you want to work in the energy industry, which it looks like that's kind of what you're saying, there are definitely opportunities for you, and there are definitely things that you can do that is going to be around a lot of thermodynamics of energy and power generation, and also transfer of energy. And like, it doesn't necessarily. I know a lot of people, whenever they think of energy transfers or energy or power, a lot of times they go back to automotive. But you could go work for Siemens, you can go work for Mitsubishi, you can go work. I mean, you could work in a manufacturing setting for an automotive company like Ford and GM, or not GMC, Ford and
Chevrolet,
Chevy,
General
yeah, or
Motors, yeah.
GM, yeah, Ford and GM, and Nissan has a plant in Tennessee, somewhere around the Nashville area. So like, you can go work with cars, or you can go work in something that's going to do similar to what an internal combustion engine would do, and it not necessarily be something like on a vehicle. So, but if you want to look for something that's like really lucrative, like R&D for, Lamborghini or Ferrari, like, you're gonna have to. That's a very, very lucrative career path, and something that you're definitely gonna require a lot of work to end up in that position.
Exactly. And for an example right here, General Motors has a position for their summer internship for sustainable workplaces in mechanical and electrical engineering, and specifically they're looking for pursuing a bachelor's degree in mechanical or electrical engineering. That is that is what they're looking for. So that's why I said that, like, I wouldn't completely advise against going into this program, but like a lot of the big companies that are out there, they're going to be looking for like your typical mechanical
Mhm.
or electrical engineering degree. We're kind of all over the place here. We got somebody in the chat that's asking questions live, so that's kind of why we're bouncing all over the place. But yeah, yeah, exactly. So working in the energy industry, which is like what I guess I could say I work in the energy industry.
Yeah, no, you
You work
do.
in more you work in consumer products, right? Is
Yeah,
kind of where yeah, you
yeah,
work in consumer
consumer
products,
goods.
but yeah, as somebody that works in the energy industry, there's plenty of ways to there's plenty of ways to get involved with with just a mechanical engineering degree or an electrical engineering degree. I am a mechanical engineer that works in the energy industry, but I don't do any mechanical engineering design myself, which is a whole other thing we could get into at another point in time. But yeah, we thank you so much for sending in the email and for engaging in the chat. The, the, uh, the other thing I guess I'd close out with is um, the fact that you're early in your community college, and you're starting to think about where you are, you want to work pretty early on is phenomenal, and keep on keeping up that mentality towards your education is your investment in your future for your career, and that'll serve you really well if you continue to advocate for yourself and continue to ask those questions, and please continue to write into the podcast, and we will do our best to keep on answering. I don't know. I was gonna say something else, and then I kind of lost my train of thought. Luke, am I missing anything?
No, I don't think so. I mean, keep us in the loop. I want to know how it pans out, and if if you do end up in one of those roles, I kind of want to see what your career path takes you down, and what those opportunities look like. So if you need any specific help, or if you're looking for any sort of specific advice, maybe there's a chance to include it in the podcast. But I'm sure Daniel will be more than willing to help out. And maybe you're looking for connections, or how to start that internship process, and looking for internships and stuff like that to put you into that field. I'm sure Daniel can help you out, and I'd be more than willing to help out too. And we
Yeah.
have a couple of connections too, so maybe we can provide help down the road.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, I remember what I was going to say now. What I do is, since you're not in this program yet, again, whenever you're applying into the program or considering, you're evaluating this program. Not only are you applying to try to get in, but you're also evaluating the program, right? So whenever you're talking to the school, ask them what kind of companies do people that get this degree tend to work in? Where do they end up going? And that kind of give
Yes.
you an idea of where that degree is kind of focused, and whether or not that's a good fit for what you want to do. And the other thing I'd want to recommend you do, is that go look at the types of companies you want to work for. If you want to work for Ford, if you want to work for Chevron, you want to work for Shell, you want to work for General Motors. First of all, go to their websites and look at their internships and see, and their college hire programs. A lot of these big companies, their college hire programs are pretty explicit on what degrees they're looking for, and see if they're looking for your degree. And if they're not naming your degree, I mean, I am dead serious. I flew across the country to go to a national career fair. I interviewed with a major electronics company. By interview, I went up to their booth and I said, "Hey, I'd like to apply. Here's my resume." They looked at my resume. They said, "What is this degree?" And it's Bachelor of Science in Engineering Science. I studied mechanical engineering. And they're like, "So like engineering technology?" I said, "No, mechanical engineering." They're like, "Well, it doesn't say that." And I was like, "Well, that's what it is." And they're like, "Well, sorry, we work in HR and we're only allowed to recruit people that have a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering." I mean, some people, it depends on the company. And I was like, "Okay, fine. This is not the company I want to work for." But if you want to work for that kind of company, some of those companies, they have filters on your applications. They will filter you out just simply by the name of your degree. So something to keep in mind. Um, that's why I always kind of say stick with the big ones: mechanical, electrical, chemical. But I mean, you do you. I'm sure that UNT does a good job of marketing their degree and their students that are in that degree program. So, anyways, that is that's the advice on this one, and we'll talk to you more about it if we go back and forth some more. All right, Luke. You know what? We were kind of all over the place. I'd like to close the podcast out with one more question where we can actually present ourselves in a unified and organized front. So
Okay.
I'm going to do this one right here. This one is electrical engineering more favorable? I'm majoring in mechanical engineering and I'm satisfied with my major, but it seems like electrical engineering is currently more in demand in the field. How do you think of me transferring from mechanical engineering to electrical engineering? Here is my take. I think that's a stupid idea. Not calling you stupid, I think that's a stupid idea. And here's why. Um, whatever. But if you are satisfied and you're more interested in mechanical engineering, which it sounds like you are, stick with it because you're going to be able to find plenty. You're going to be able to find a job. Mechanical engineering is a very desirable degree. There's always going to be jobs out there for mechanical engineers. And if you're more interested in the work that mechanical engineers do, then you're going to have a more fulfilling life, career, and you're going to probably perform better because you're more interested in the content that you're working in. So, why why do that? Like why why leave the thing you're interested in to do something else just because you think it is in more demand? There's plenty of demand for mechanical engineers. Don't make that decision just on that metric alone. However, if you think that the stuff that electrical engineers do is more interesting to you, then yeah, consider it. But that's my take. What do you say, Luke?
Yeah, I think if you start the process of chasing down what you feel like is currently hot jobs or hot markets, that stuff changes every 5 to 10 years. And I mean, I'm sure Daniel, you're aware of this. I mean, power generation was kind of up and down. It was really hot, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even into like the 2000s, and then it kind of dropped off because everybody had what they needed. And so a lot of people were pursuing oil and gas. A lot of people were pursuing power generation opportunities.
And now it's
And
coming
then,
back, right?
and
With
now,
the
yeah, and
yeah,
now,
with natural gas
yep,
and hydrogen and ammonia. So yeah,
yeah. And so if you start going down the process of just chasing whatever the big hot thing is, could end up in a spot where you have this degree or you have this opportunity that it's not a hot market anymore and it's really hard to get into. So if
and
you
you
have
don't
the
like what you do.
opportunity, yeah, so if you have the opportunity, pursue what you want to do. Like pursue what you like. Um, and I think that's going to be much more favorable for you in the long term. I think it's going to be better for your career growth, better for your career development. So that's what I would recommend. Don't start chasing hot industries and don't start chasing lucrative degrees. Because I remember whenever I was in school, I think supply chain was getting to be really hot. Like that was kind of the big thing that started up. And I mean, there's a lot for it, but I think, if instead of I if you had pursued an industrial engineering degree, you definitely could have ended up in supply chain. But if you had switched from industrial engineering to supply chain, yeah, you probably could have gotten a job out of school. But as soon as that market kind of quieted down, people are going to go to industrial engineers. They're going to prefer industrial engineers over people with the supply chain management or whatever the thing was.
Yeah.
So, same sort of concept here. Follow what you want to do. Don't sacrifice for, chasing a hot field or a hot topic.
Wouldn't say that electrical engineering is like a hot topic in the same way that, say, for example, nuclear engineering was,
Right.
um, but or petroleum engineering was, um, but because it's one of the core three. It's mechanical, electrical, chemical, and then core four, civil. Add civil. Sorry, add civil.
Yes.
It's one of the
Yeah.
core four. So it's always going to be in demand. And I'm not saying that you're just chasing the hot thing, but like, um, yeah, just mechanical and electrical. There's always going to be demand for it, and they're versatile degrees. So yeah, you don't chase the money whenever you're not going to be as and you're not going to enjoy it as much. So yeah.
Yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right. Well, that's the podcast. If you have any questions, write into engring.success@gmail.com, just like this lovely gentleman, or actually, I assumed their gender. just like this lovely person in the comment section has done. Appreciate working with you and answering your questions. We'll answer more questions.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sounds like something's going on in the background, so I'm gonna check out. I'll talk to you later. Thank you for watching this episode of the Engineering Success Podcast. I really appreciate your support. It would really help us out if you leave comments down below, like, comment, subscribe. All those things really help us engage and get our reach out. And also make sure that you give the podcast a 5-star review on your favorite website. I'll read out all the best reviews down below.
They heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.